Today, I want to talk about a problem that touches every single life listening to me. It does not matter if you are young or old, rich or poor, living in the city or out in the countryside. This problem has no boundaries, and it reaches into every human heart. The problem is this: we live in a world that promises satisfaction through sex, power, riches, and material possessions, but deep inside, people are restless, searching, and still unfulfilled. You can gain everything this world has to offer, but if your soul is empty, you still have nothing. That's the struggle we will face tonight, and that is the question we will answer. Where does true satisfaction really come from? The allure of sex and the human heart sex is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. It was designed not as something shameful, but as a gift, meant to unite two lives in love, to create families, and to be celebrated within the bond of marriage. It was meant to be pure, holy, and beautiful. But when a gift is misused, when something sacred is twisted, it no longer brings joy, it brings chains. And this is the reality that so many in our world face today. Look around, and you will see how the culture has taken this gift and distorted it. Every advertisement, every movie, every corner of entertainment screams with the same message: indulge yourself, satisfy yourself. You deserve pleasure without boundaries. And people chase it because it seems so appealing, so irresistible. But here's the truth that no one wants to admit: the more you feed lust, the hungrier it becomes. The more you indulge, the emptier you feel. Lust always takes, but it never gives. It promises satisfaction, but it delivers emptiness. Think for a moment about how many lives have been ruined because of the misuse of this desire. Marriages broken, families torn apart, hearts left wounded and guilty, people searching for love in all the wrong places, only to discover that what they thought was love was just temporary passion that faded like smoke. The world doesn't talk about that part. The world paints the picture of freedom, of excitement, of living without restraint, but it never shows the brokenness that follows. And the brokenness is real. Behind the glittering lights of pleasure, there is often deep regret, a restless conscience, a longing for something that passion alone cannot satisfy. The allure of sex lies in its power to captivate the human heart. It touches something deep inside, a longing for intimacy, a desire to be known and loved. But here is the great tragedy. When that longing is sought outside of the sacred boundaries for which it was created, it leaves the soul emptier than before. Instead of fulfillment, it creates a void. Instead of intimacy, it creates distance. Instead of freedom, it creates bondage. And people go back again and again, hoping that the next experience, the next relationship, the next indulgence will finally bring satisfaction, but it never does. Some people even begin to live double lives, presenting one image to the world while secretly hiding their struggles with desire. Outwardly, they may seem happy, confident, successful, but inwardly there is a war raging in the heart. A war that cannot be won by indulgence. A war that cannot be silenced by pretending it isn't there. This is the secret pain that so many carry, the hidden battle between the call of the flesh and the hunger of the soul. And isn't it striking that even in our modern world, with all the freedom, all the access, all the opportunities to indulge every desire, people are still restless. In fact, the restlessness has grown worse. Depression, loneliness, broken relationships, shattered identities, these are the fruits of chasing desire without boundaries. The very thing that was supposed to bring happiness has become a source of misery. The very gift that was supposed to create love has become a weapon that destroys it. The allure of sex is powerful because it was created to be powerful. It was designed to bond two lives so strongly that nothing could tear them apart. But when this power is misdirected, it becomes destructive. Fire, when kept in a fireplace, gives warmth and comfort. But when fire is unleashed and uncontrolled, it burns down everything in its path. So it is with sexual desire. In the right place, it brings life and blessing. In the wrong place, it brings devastation. The human heart longs for love, but love is not the same as lust. Love gives, lust takes. Love commits, lust consumes. Love builds, lust destroys. And the tragedy of our culture is that so many have confused the two. They think they are pursuing love, when in reality they are being enslaved by lust. And the more they chase it, the more empty they feel. The allure of sex touches every life in some way. Some struggle openly, others silently. Some are entangled in guilt from the past, others are tempted in the present. But wherever it appears, it always carries the same deception. It promises joy while leading to emptiness. It promises freedom while creating chains. It promises life while draining the soul. The deception of power has always fascinated the human heart. From the beginning of history, men and women have pursued it with relentless ambition, believing that if they could only rise higher, if they could only gain authority over others, if they could only make their voices the loudest in the room, they would finally find fulfillment. Power gives the illusion of control. It makes a person feel invincible for a time, as though they are masters of their own destiny, untouchable, secure. But the truth about power is that it deceives. It whispers promises it cannot keep, and once grasped, it rarely satisfies the soul the way people imagine it will. Look at the rulers, kings, and leaders of history. Many climbed to the very heights of power, commanding armies, building empires, controlling nations. They were feared, they were respected, they were obeyed. Yet, when the lights of history dimmed and their kingdoms crumbled, what was left? Monuments of stone, stories in books, but their souls often stood empty. Power can give influence, but it cannot give peace. It can command obedience, but it cannot command love. It can build empires, but it cannot build eternal hope. In our own world today, power still tempts hearts in every sphere of life. It is not just political leaders or wealthy magnates who chase after it. In workplaces, in communities, even within families, there are those who hunger to be in control, to dominate, to have the final word. They think that by asserting authority, by forcing others to submit, they will secure respect. But what they often discover is that fear may be gained through power, yet genuine respect comes only through character. People may obey the powerful, but deep inside they resent them. And the powerful, despite all their influence, remain restless because respect, admiration, and love cannot be bought by control. The deception of power is subtle because it appeals to human pride. It makes a person feel important, superior above others. It blinds them into thinking they are stronger than they are. Yet power is fragile. It can be taken away in a single moment. A leader may fall overnight. A boss may lose his position. A ruler may be overthrown. Even the strongest empires in the world have collapsed, leaving behind ruins as reminders that human power never lasts. The hands that once held a scepter are eventually stilled by death, and the throne that seemed unshakable is soon occupied by another. Think of the countless examples where the pursuit of power has destroyed lives. Wars fought, nations divided, friendships broken, families torn apart, all because someone wanted to control, to dominate, to rise above others. Power intoxicates, and when people drink too deeply from it, and they begin to believe they are invincible. But history has shown again and again that the higher a person rises in pride and arrogance, The greater the fall when the deception of power is exposed. Even on a personal level, how many lives are consumed with the desire for recognition, for titles, for authority over others? The worker who schemes for a promotion not to serve, but to dominate. The politician who makes promises not to help, but to gain votes. The individual who cannot stand to be questioned, because power to them is not about responsibility, but about ego. And when they achieve their goals, when they hold that position they longed for, they often find that the emptiness in their heart remains untouched. The human heart was never meant to be satisfied by control over others. It was created to be satisfied by something greater, something eternal. That is why power never brings rest. The one who has little power longs for more. The one who has great power fears losing it. And the one who loses power often feels broken because their identity was tied to something that could never last. The deception of power is that it convinces us we are secure when in reality we are fragile. It convinces us we are in control when in truth so much of life is beyond our grasp. It convinces us we are important because others bow, when in reality importance is not measured by authority, but by the heart's alignment with truth. And when the applause fades, when the authority is stripped away, when the voice of power is silenced by time, what remains is not the power we held, but the person we became. The temptation of riches have a peculiar way of attracting the human heart. Money in itself is not evil, for it is necessary for daily life, to feed families, to build homes, to care for those we love. But the danger lies in the temptation that riches bring, the subtle pull that whispers to the soul. If you only had more, then you would finally be secure, then you would finally be happy. This voice echoes in every age, from the poorest villages to the wealthiest cities, and it is one of the most deceptive voices the human heart will ever hear. We live in a world that glorifies wealth. Success is often measured not by character, but by the size of a bank account, the brand of a car, the square footage of a house, the label on a suit. People are taught to believe that the more they have, the more valuable they are. And so men and women spend their lives chasing money, believing it will bring satisfaction. Yet history and experience tell us that wealth, when pursued as the ultimate goal, never brings the fulfillment it promises. The wealthiest people are often the ones who confess to feeling the greatest emptiness, because riches can fill pockets, but they can never fill the human soul. The temptation of riches often begins innocently. A desire to provide better for a family, a longing for security, a wish for a more comfortable life. These desires are not wrong in themselves, but when money shifts from being a tool to becoming a master, it enslaves the heart. The pursuit of wealth becomes endless. What was once enough is no longer satisfying. The man who earns a small fortune longs for a greater one. The woman who once dreamed of comfort begins to dream of luxury. And the cycle never ends, because riches always demand more. Consider how many sacrifices are made at the altar of wealth. Time with family is neglected, relationships are broken, integrity is compromised, all for the sake of money. And yet, even when success is achieved, the satisfaction fades quickly. The new house becomes old. The new car loses its shine. The investment portfolio grows, but the heart still feels restless. The human soul was not designed to be satisfied with numbers in a bank account or treasures stored in safes. It was designed for something eternal, something greater than material possessions. There is another deception that riches bring: the illusion of security. People believe that if they accumulate enough wealth, they will be safe from harm, immune to fear, untouched by uncertainty. But money cannot stop the march of time. It cannot protect against illness. It cannot erase guilt. And it cannot conquer death. In the end, every coin, every dollar, every treasure will be left behind. No amount of riches has ever followed a soul into eternity. The grave does not respect wealth, and eternity is not purchased with gold. And yet, generation after generation, people fall into the same trap. They work tirelessly for riches that perish, while neglecting the treasures of the soul. They build fortunes that crumble, while ignoring the eternal wealth that cannot be lost. They spend their lives filling barns and accounts, but never filling their hearts with the one thing that truly satisfies. The trap of materialism. Materialism is one of the most subtle and dangerous traps in the modern world. It does not always come with loud promises or shocking temptations. Instead, it creeps into daily life quietly, convincing us that happiness can be bought, that fulfillment is found in possessions, that joy is just one more purchase away. It tells us that if we have the latest device, the biggest house, the finest clothes, then we will finally be content. But the truth is, the trap of materialism is endless, because the more a person acquires, the more the heart desires, and the cycle never stops. Think of how often people are caught up in the chase for more. A new phone comes out, and the old one suddenly feels outdated, even if it works perfectly. A neighbor buys a new car, and suddenly ours seems inadequate. A colleague moves into a larger home, and suddenly the place we once loved feels too small. This constant comparison feeds discontentment, and discontentment fuels materialism. People begin to measure their worth not by who they are, but by what they own. The human heart was never designed to live this way, yet so many find themselves trapped in this endless cycle. Materialism appeals to a deep longing in every person, the desire to be satisfied. It promises joy, but only delivers a momentary thrill. The new purchase brings excitement, but soon the excitement fades, and the emptiness returns. That is why stores are full, advertisements are loud, and the world is constantly pushing the next product. Because materialism feeds on dissatisfaction. It convinces us that happiness is always in the next possession. But once that possession is gained, the hunger only grows stronger. There is also a heavy burden that comes with materialism. The more people acquire, the more they must maintain. The bigger the house, the greater the upkeep. The more expensive the car, the higher the cost to preserve it. The more possessions we gather, the more time, money, and energy we must spend protecting them. Instead of possessions serving us, we begin serving them. People who thought material wealth would bring freedom often find themselves chained by it. They work longer hours, carry heavier debts, and live in greater anxiety, all to sustain a lifestyle that was never meant to satisfy the soul. Materialism also blinds the heart to what is truly important. When life is consumed by the pursuit of things, relationships suffer, values erode, and eternal truths are forgotten. People begin to treat others as competitors instead of companions, seeing neighbors as rivals in the game of possessions rather than fellow travelers in life. Families fracture when the desire for wealth overshadows love. Communities weaken when generosity is replaced with greed, and the soul, which was created for something far greater, withers under the weight of endless dissatisfaction. The trap of materialism lies in its false promise. It makes people believe that joy is something external, something that can be bought, something that can be owned. But real joy, lasting joy, is not found in possessions. It is found in peace of heart, in love that does not fade, in values that cannot be purchased, and in treasures that cannot be stolen by time or circumstance. Yet generation after generation, the trap of materialism captures countless lives, leaving them restless, weary, and always searching for more. The call to eternal values. The human heart was never meant to be satisfied with temporary pleasures. Sex, power, riches, and materialism all promise much, but they deliver little. They give a taste of satisfaction that fades as quickly as it comes, leaving the soul thirsty for more. But deep within every man and woman, there is a longing for something greater, something lasting, something that no possession, no achievement, no pleasure can ever replace. That longing is the call to eternal values, the whisper of truth that reminds us we were created for more than the fleeting things of this world. Eternal values speak to the deepest needs of the human soul. While the world shouts for attention with its noise and distractions, eternal values call quietly, yet powerfully, reminding us that life is more than what we see. They point us beyond the temporary, beyond the material, beyond the surface of things to what truly matters. The world urges us to measure our worth by what we own, by the status we achieve, or by the pleasures we experience. Eternal values tell us our worth is far greater because it is rooted not in possessions or accomplishments, but in the very purpose for which we were created. Consider how fragile the things of this world are. A man can spend a lifetime building wealth only to see it vanish in a moment through crisis, disaster, or death. A woman can devote her life to beauty only to watch time take it away. A leader can rise to great power only to be forgotten within a generation. The values of this world always fade because they are built on temporary things. Eternal values, however, do not fade. They do not crumble with time. They are not stolen by death. They are not erased by history. They stand firm through every generation, unshaken by circumstance. The call to eternal values is a call to lift our eyes higher. It is a call to see beyond the glitter of wealth, beyond the intoxication of power, beyond the fleeting thrill of pleasure, beyond the restless chase of possessions. It is a call to anchor our lives in what endures: truth, love, justice, faith, mercy, hope. These are the treasures that cannot be bought, cannot be stolen, cannot be destroyed. These are the riches of the soul that remain long after the treasures of earth have turned to dust. Eternal values also free us from the chains of comparison and discontent. The person who lives for the world is always measuring themselves against others, always chasing the next thing, always restless. But the person who embraces eternal values lives with a peace that no circumstance can shake. They know that their worth is not measured in gold. Their joy is not tied to possessions. Their hope is not anchored in the praise of others. They are free to love without fear, to give without hesitation, to live without the crushing weight of emptiness. Every generation is faced with the same choice: to live for what fades or to live for what endures, to chase after the things of earth or to seek the treasures of eternity, to build life upon shifting sand or to build it upon a foundation that cannot be moved. Eternal values call us away from the restless pursuit of temporary satisfactions and invite us into a life of meaning, a life of purpose, a life that continues beyond the grave. We have walked through the allure of sex and the human heart, the deception of power, the temptation of riches, the trap of materialism, and finally the call to eternal values. Each of these forces, sex, power, riches, and materialism, carries a promise. Yet none of them can deliver what the soul truly longs for. They entice us with the illusion of fulfillment, but they leave us emptier than before. They promise life, but they cannot conquer death. They promise peace, but they cannot quiet the restless heart. All through history, men and women have chased after these fleeting things, believing they would find happiness. But the stories of broken lives, shattered families, and restless hearts prove again and again that the world's treasures fade. The applause ends, the wealth disappears, the power crumbles, the pleasures vanish, and the possessions decay. What remains is the question every heart must answer: have I built my life on what is temporary, or have I built it on what is eternal? The truth is that the human heart was created for more than this world can offer. It was made for eternal values that never fade, never lose their worth, never disappoint. The restless search for meaning will never end until the soul turns to that which cannot be shaken. Only then can peace replace emptiness. Only then can hope replace despair. And only then can life be lived with purpose that stretches beyond the grave. This is the choice that stands before us all. The decision between the fleeting treasures of earth and the lasting treasures of eternity, between living for what fades and living for what endures forever.